All right. Good Tuesday morning, everyone. It is March 12th, 2024. And welcome to our March buyer user group meeting for the EVA program. Really appreciate everybody joining in today. And as always, if you are watching this on the recording, I hope you get a chance to join our meeting live at some point because Kim does such a great job of introducing everybody and bringing everybody on and usually having a fun topic that we discuss. And today's topic was great. Kind of talking about why you joined public service. It is procurement month. We'll get to that in a minute. Um, but why you chose the job you did. And it was great to see all the different levels of experience from somebody who, a couple folks who had just started out in the procurement role, to individuals like myself, who've been around for 20 plus and maybe even longer than that years. So I always am kind of amazed just with my own story, and thinking about my career path, to say that here in May, for me, it'll be 22 years, which is really hard to believe. There was a time that I felt like I was uh, one of the young up and comers, and I guess that part of my career is over. I don't think anymore after 22 years you can say that you're young anymore. But I certainly still do love what I'm doing, and love public service, and so happy to be here with all of you guys today for our March user group. But again, if you haven't had a chance to join us live, the beginning of that session is awfully fun. Kim usually has a great topic for us to chat about, kind of warm us up before we dig into the user group. Just a reminder before I really start to dig into the slides here, we are or have moved our schedule back. And to go ahead and put this on the recording, Kim mentioned this before we started recording, but to get this on the recording, that we have moved our schedule back where we're doing a user group every other month. So our next user group session will be in May. You can look in April. Communication will go out. We call them EVA extras, and anything like that from a communication perspective. But we'll have some communication and some contact with you in the month of April. But our next user group will be in May, and we'll get that date set very, very soon. Just real quick, I think here's our agenda. I think we've kind of said welcome. Um, got some news and notes and just some quick updates to go through. Well, a print survey that we had sent out going back a couple months ago, I believe that was kind of in February when we did the print survey, got a little summary for you to go over today. We'll talk about the EVA production release and some next up issues and some high priority issues and how we're doing with some things that are coming in to EVA, some fixes, some enhancements, all such sorts of good stuff around that. And then I'm very excited to give everyone today a demo, very high level at this point. We are in the middle of designing and solutioning and configuring, but a very, very, very high level demo, a live look at electronic invoicing. And I'll set the table for that a little bit later in the session this morning. So really, really excited. This is the electronic invoicing. We demo a lot of things if you've been with us over the years. We look at requisitions and orders and sourcing and contracts and catalogs and supplier things and all sorts of fun stuff like this. Electronic invoicing is truly a new piece of functionality. And I can't remember the last time we rolled out a completely new module. It's been a while since we've done that. And it's especially been a while since we've done a new module that actually impacts both communities, both our supplier community and our buying community. So again, very, very, very excited to roll out electronic invoicing. And I'll have some more details on that and timing and all sorts of stuff. But again, excited to get that demo for you guys. I've been leaving this next slide up as we kind of move out of our agenda and get into some details here. But I've been leaving this slide in the presentation. Hopefully you've heard me say it has a lot of value, kind of an overall EVA release management page for you guys. Thanks to Tony Jordan for kind of taking this over the last probably half year, maybe longer at this point. Tony has almost been with us a year, I think. He started, I think it was April. Is that right, Tony?
Yeah, we're just about at a year.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Tony's almost been with us a year, which is fantastic. But the point of having this up here, Tony, one of his roles for us as the deputy director is release management on the Commonwealth side. And he is very diligent about getting the release notes up for the items that are going into EVA each month. There's the direct link for that. It's also clickable, linkable off of the EVA homepage. And then Tony is very, very involved with coordinating our what we call our EVA tips. And we've been very consistent about, throwing up things in both for our supplier community and our buying community about all sorts of cool things that are going on with EVA, maybe something that's helpful, something you need to know, maybe a quick tip on performing a certain function. Those are located at that link, and they're also available in the training area of EVA. There's a tips section, and that training area includes our quick reference guides and our more detailed self-guided training, our schedule for our virtual instructor-led training, which I apologize for anybody. All of the different things that are going on. There is a training session going on right now. So I know some of my staff is tied up in that, and probably some of our folks that watch the user group meeting are attending that training session. So good thing, like we mentioned, that Kim is recording the buyer user group. So those folks that are taking training today can check out the user group as well. But again, great areas for you guys to visit, and we like to leave those up and leave these in the presentation just to make sure you guys are driving back to those things. I kind of skim, particularly the release notes. I'm going to be giving you kind of the high level, some of the things I think that are important, but there's a lot that goes into these releases as we're constantly evolving EVA. So certainly if you want to deep dive, that's a great area to go into for the release notes. And again, big thanks to Tony for keeping us straight and keeping that moving here for our team and our program. Let's dig into some news and notes. Talked about this earlier, but it is procurement month this month. So happy procurement month, no matter what your role is in procurement, from a procurement professional to where it is just part of your job to participate in procurement. We appreciate all you guys and everything that you do. EVA wouldn't be here if there wasn't procurement professionals and there wasn't procurement going on in the Commonwealth. So I appreciate everything that you guys do as procurement professionals and in your procurement roles and whatever, kind of procurement activities you may be involved with at your various entities and agencies. So it's very, very much appreciated. Happy procurement month. And as Kim mentioned, you guys put the pro in procurement. We'll be doing a couple little things around social media, and I want to get to that. That's kind of our next point here for news and notes. We've had social media and how we use it. We've always had an interesting relationship with that. I believe at one point we dabbled in Facebook. We had, going back years ago as well, an account or a presence on Twitter, which is now X or whatever they're calling it. And then we had or have a LinkedIn profile. We kind of had a meeting of the minds on that, and really don't or will no longer have a presence on any social media platform at this point outside of LinkedIn. We seem to have the most followers on LinkedIn, the most traction in general on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a kind of a professional business area, and it seems to be a good fit for what we do. So outside of the DGS website, the EVA website, this is where our presence is going to be. We do have a LinkedIn account. It's available up at the top of the homepage. I put the direct link in there as well. But again, that's kind of where we're focusing our social media presence at this point. We've never been crazy active on social media, but certainly LinkedIn is a place where you can go and check that out. And I know a lot of our staff has LinkedIn presence as well. I think one of the biggest things that we use LinkedIn for is when we have open positions here, either at DGS, DPS, or directly on the EVA team. We tend to advertise that on LinkedIn. And Kim has kind of talked to me. She's going to do some stuff with Procurement Month on LinkedIn, and we're looking to really put our focus there. So again, if that's something you do, go check out LinkedIn. It's at EVA Connect, or you can see the direct link there. And then, Kim, myself, Tony, Barb, we all have LinkedIn profiles. If you want to go get connected with us directly, or any other staff here at DPS, to our LinkedIn profiles as well, please feel free to do that. Some other news and notes, and some things that are going on. We are planning at this point, if you've ever cut a requisition in EVA and that requisition exceeds $1 million, you will see an approval rule, fire, or roll, whatever you want to call it. And it's called the large dollar approver. And it's really kind of our security team. I'm a backup on it. I think Tony's a backup on it as well. Here at DPS, here on the EVA team, where we have this large dollar approver, and it lets us kind of come in. We're not checking for anything outside of making sure no mistakes were made before that order kind of goes down the path. We've been doing that for years and years and years, and I think it's carried over for so long. And that classic mistake of, well, why do you have a large dollar approver? Well, because it's been that way for the better part of a decade. From a kind of executive planning committee decision, we kind of looked at that and said, you know what, we probably ought to quit doing that. EVA is certainly plenty mature. You guys out there, in the procurement realm, certainly have the capability, to watch for mistakes and things like that through your own approvals that you're doing. And so we are planning in the not too distant future to retire the large dollar approval role. So I wanted to broach that subject with you today. I will tell you, having occasionally had to cover that role, I know our folks in EVA Security do a lot of the managing of that role. But occasionally, if they're on vacation or have something going on, they've asked Tony or I to do that. And I can tell you, we're still getting several requisitions submitted to us that we're catching in the large dollar role that there has been a mistake. An extra zero gets added. Something goes on where what should be a $100, $1,000 transaction ends up being over $1 million because a mistake was made. So this is kind of that early warning. We will absolutely communicate to you guys when we turn this rule off, and that'll be a global communication. We will make sure we let everybody know that that rule is going to be turned off. It is not turned off yet, but we will give you fair warning, probably give you a week or two notice somewhere in there when that's going to happen. And you guys just need to be, you guys that are approvers, managers, supervisors, leaders, you guys just need to be aware that we're doing that, and we're removing that guardrail. We've been using the term guardrail. We're going to go ahead and remove that. We're going to let you guys run with scissors. So again, we see several a week requisitions that are keyed in error that we catch before they go any further in the process. So just something to think about from a training perspective, and something to watch for from an approver perspective. But again, we will communicate once that schedule is set, give you guys, a little bit of lead time on that so you can prepare yourselves for that. But again, that's something that's going on with that large dollar approver. And then pretty sure this date is going to hold. I haven't seen any other messages go out yet, but we continue to see some issues, some needs around the receiving process, the receiving and return process. as part of the requisition and purchase order process, the P2P process within EVA. We tend to get the most tickets in customer care on the receiving and return process. It tends to trip our users up more than anything that we do. And we're scheduling March 18th was the date that I have. That's obviously coming up here pretty soon. I don't know if that date will move. As I said, I haven't seen any other additional communications about that. But point being, we're putting together a special webinar on receiving. So be on the lookout for that. Not only will we do kind of a webinar, I think that session will be repeated a couple times. We'll also record it. So again, some additional training and outreach, very, very specific to the receiving process. So keep your eyes and ears open for that as that's coming. All right, so that's our news and notes, kind of a couple updates. And again, a happy procurement month to everyone. We give you our hats off. And again, I love the term. You guys put the pro in procurement. So we appreciate you guys so much for everything that you're doing. Let's shift gears and talk about the print survey that we set out. So let me do a little table setting for you here. We were at the forum, our in-person public procurement forum that was held back in November of 23. Again, it was so great. I hope you had the chance to attend in person. If you didn't get the chance to attend in person, I know those sessions were recorded and you can watch the recorded sessions. And then I know the dates for the forum here in 2024 have been set. I'm pretty sure it's the November 17th through the 20th. And I think we're probably less than 50 days from the registration opening up, if you can believe that, for Forum 2024. So if you didn't get a chance to go last year, I hope you get a chance to go this year. But one of the things we heard at the forum was there's still a lot of printing of transactions going on within EVA. And it's all sorts of stuff. Maybe it's printing recs, maybe it's printing a receipt, maybe it's printing attachments on a purchase order, maybe it's printing a purchase order. But there's still a lot of that going on. Now, we're not judging right, wrong, or indifferent at this point, but before we start judging and before we start figuring out what's going on, we just kind of wanted to get a survey out there and get a feel for what's happening, what's being printed, the frequency of things being printed, just kind of gauging your overall feedback, before we just go around, saying, well, you shouldn't do this or you should do that, or before we even start fixing things in EVA. I think it's obviously going to be a mix of all sorts of stuff. We wanted to get a survey out, and I'm just going to go through today. Don't really have any solutions for you at this point. Our guys, we're still kind of looking through the survey, getting a feel for the type of feedback we're seeing, where we can be, where we can help by either talking about a business process or actually fixing the print function in EVA and the different transactions. I just kind of wanted to go over so you can get a feel for what we're seeing. So we sent that survey to pretty much, if we had a valid email address for an end user, that survey went out. We got roughly 800 responses, which is great. That makes us, one of the things is you need a certain percentage of responses to be statistically valid, because, even if you got 100% response rate, once you hit a certain statistical amount of responses, it's really not going to change the overall results. So we really appreciate everybody that did respond. I hope you got a chance to do that. But again, 800 responses was great. So it was great to hear back from you guys. Out of those responses, just a couple high-level things that we saw that I think might be of interest to you. 88% of users in procurement positions print daily. So, if you're in a specific procurement position, we asked what you did. What kind of role? Are you in fiscal? Is it a procurement role? Are you a CEO? Are you a Are you something else? We had people from kind of all walks of life, where procurement is 100% of their responsibility to a smaller percentage of their responsibility. And when we, folks that we identified being in procurement positions, in a procurement office, VCO, VCA, procurement director, procurement lead, whatever it may be, about 88% of you were saying, we're printing daily. And printing is also, I want to be clear, that doesn't always mean we're printing to paper. And we hear you, we understand. That, in this day and age, printing a lot of times can mean printing to PDF, let's say. One of the common things we saw, particularly for you guys that don't have any sort of data exchange with the finance system, maybe use Cardinal directly, or you don't have an integration or interface with your financial system. So you need to print a receipt to PDF so that you can get it to fiscal, so that when an invoice comes in, you can get everything matched up and get a payment process. And fiscal's asking for a copy of the receipt. So again, we understand it's not always paper. A lot of times you're printing electronically. But that's kind of the point here with that second bullet point. 88% of our users in procurement positions are printing daily. 85% of our users, no matter what role you were in, have a need, and that could be a couple times a year, that could be a couple times a month, that could be a couple times a week, that could be daily. 85% of our users at one time or another have some need to do a print function. And again, printing to PDF, saving a document, saving an attachment, getting a receipt printed to get an invoice paid. It's all sorts of things, but pretty high percentages there for that need, or at least your perception of that need in the role that you have to print. And then out of those 85% who have a need to print, 67% of that group of all users print daily, or at least once per week. So lots of, functions, that print function, things coming out of EVA for whatever reason, lots going on. So we hear you. That's the kind of stuff we wanted to see. We wanted to know how deep the need was, how prevalent it was. That's kind of setting the table. Hey, this is a real, regardless of how yours truly might feel about it, running an IT system like EVA, there's absolutely the feeling out in the community of that need to print. So just some other things I think you might find interesting as we drive through here. Do you need to print purchase orders, receipts, and/or information for your EVA account? That's basically your yes, no. So there's your, kind of your percentages setting up there. So out of all the folks, and I know that's not an exact match to the 800 who responded, if you count the numbers up there, but it's giving you an idea percentage wise. Just, straight up yes, a large majority in graphical form, you have some sort of print need. And then here's another look at kind of how often, and you can see daily kind of rules the roost, but in the grand scheme of things, it's spread out. I think our percentages line up with that I just talked about earlier. A large percentage of all users have a daily and weekly need to print. And then a little less than majority there, if you're just kind of eyeballing that chart, are only printing when it's a special need, special request, or it's monthly. They're not doing it that often. You're doing it once a month. So I think if you're talking about, when I look at this and as we're kind of formulating, okay, where we need to talk to you, where we need to help, where we need to fix EVA, your pain point there is kind of those folks in that top left, or the left of the graph, those first two. I'm printing every day or I'm printing weekly, and there's a pain point potentially there. Something's wrong. So then getting into this, This next area is interesting. A little over 50%, based on looking at this chart. And then if you include receipts, well over 50%. We're really focused in recs, purchase orders with allocation information, purchase order attachments, and receipts. So well over 50% is very, very focused in the rec, PO, receipt area, the P2P area, right? So that requisition, purchase order, receipt process, we're well over 50%. That's where the focus is. So certainly anything we did or are planning on doing or looking at doing from an EVA perspective, that's where we're going to focus first. And then you see some other things that are going on there. Bid lists, bid tabulation. That's really the same thing there. So that's I didn't catch that until I was looking at that chart. But bid list and bid tab, supplier responses, contract files and attachments, reports, and then other, which kind of covered a scope of all sorts of stuff. But I thought that was interesting. That kind of lies where we had some thoughts about that. It is, that initial focus, those initial pain points, as you kind of start to look at this data and tie things together, you're going, hey, you got a lot of people printing at least once a week, a lot of people printing daily. There's your pain point. So there's a frequency there. And then, well over 50% is somehow focused around the requisition PO receipt process. All right. So, just some interesting results there as we're digesting what's coming back to us. And then we like these, just kind of a word cloud for some of the feedback, some of the quotes. There were an awful lot of you, and I haven't had a chance to go through every single one of them yet, but I promise you I will. Just direct feedback where we kind of had an open section in the survey where you could put your thoughts down, give us a little bit of perspective on what the impacts are to you. So you can see, printer friendly, purchase order, size, page. I mean, you hard, required, fit. You see order, receipt, formatting. So it gives you kind of that idea, that churn, on where we, where we get in there. You helps you kind of, look at the pain points, get a feel for what's going on. But you're seeing words in there like document, required. Then you're seeing words like old and hard and size and fit. All right. And then you're seeing words like rec, order, receiving, and recs twice. You see REQ and requisition, so kind of all the things we're building to. This is just kind of summarizing where all that is. So we hear you. It's great feedback for us. And, again, we really, really appreciate you guys kind of allowing us to kind of look at this data, look at these results, and build some perspective for us as we kind of formulate a plan to get you guys some help. And then some quotes. I thought these were interesting and kind of take you kind of all over the place on some areas, to focus in on. And, this first quote, I kind of talked about this earlier when we were going through the results. I do not physically print items, but I like to save PDF versions to save them electronically, since I keep an electronic file on Google Drive for each of my contracts and other significant procurements. There are many pages in the current EVA that are not printer friendly and cannot be easily read if you can try to convert it to a PDF. So again, stressing, hey, we're not printing, we're not sitting here burning up our copy machines and throwing stuff in a paper-based file cabinet, but this is one of the needs we have, for saving things that are very, very important to us. Another one we thought was interesting here as an EVA security officer. You know, our form now to do users is used to be in the system. Now it's outside of the system. We're thinking that could cut down. And then the second part of this, which is I think something I'm beginning to hone in on, and our team is beginning to hone in on, when printing a receipt to send to accounts payable, you know, I've got to do that as part of my job. And that could absolutely be a case where you don't have an integration. You don't have an interface, you know, there's nothing connecting EVA to your AP department or your finance system. And, you know, so you got to get it to them somehow. You know, so that's something to keep in mind as well. And then again, just this last one, just a plea, you know, kind of the pain point here. You know, I'm making these PDF versions and they're, you know, the pages are running long. It could be a lot smaller. We used to be able to adjust the format, you know, to minimize that impact. And now it's just crazy. You know, we're getting some crazy feedback and some crazy things going on. So again, that is 3 comments on a myriad of hand-keyed comments we got back. And again, my commitment, you know, to you is to make sure I go through all those and have a look and pull out the things that are important. Again, don't have any results from what we're going to do to help yet. We are still continuing and then planning to meet here internally with our staff, kind of go over these results, kind of go over what we're seeing, and then come back to you guys here over the next several weeks, over the next several months with this is what we're going to do to resolve this issue. You know, here's some steps we're going to take. Here's some things we want to look at. We may be reaching out to some of you directly to deep dive some of this stuff. You know, so more to come on this. But again, you know, really appreciate all the responses we did get. We hear you. Give us some time, you know, to look into this. There's so many different avenues and so many different areas that this touches, but certainly something we wanted to spend this time from after our 2023 forum as we go into the 2024 forum, you know, something we absolutely wanted to take some time to focus on to make sure that we did everything we could to make, you know, these business processes around retaining transactions and how we retain transactions easier and better for you guys. So more to come on this, and just overall a very, very, very big thank you for getting those submittals back to us. So let's shift gears. And let's talk about some updates that are going on in EVA, some of our high priority issues, kind of shifting into the release management portion here. Give you an update on some things that are very high priority for us that we are going to be getting into place in EVA. Talking about what happened in our February release, what's coming up in our March release, and just getting you guys kind of a high level overall update on some of the things that are going on. We are working and have slated for May some additional approval logic going into our requisitions. That is being worked on and solutioned right now, and the end of May release date's looking good for that. Those that additional approval logic is tied to our queue management process, which is our kind of workload management process. Again, kind of an option for you to consider if you're not already using it, but certainly we're hoping this will help kind of strengthen your ability around this additional logic to potentially make changes, to a requisition, and then have additional checks and balances, to run through those requisitions. So again, that's coming in May. I'm sure as that gets closer to going live, I'll get a chance to demo that here in the user group as well, and show you the possibilities around that additional logic. Excited to announce that our Logi ad hoc tool We had some new fields come in as part of our transition to our new EVA platform. Reporting is kind of always the last thing that gets fixed, right? Or the last thing that gets updated. And I'm very excited to announce that back in that February timeframe, actually in January, the end of January, the Logi ad hoc updates were completed. So excited for the users out there using Logi ad hoc that it's been updated. I know our data lead, Jonathan Eisenman, has been working with a lot of you, doing some training on Logi ad hoc, helping you guys get your reports updated and things like that. So again, very excited that the update is complete on Logi ad hoc. Another pain point here, this third bullet point from the forum. So there's a lot of things that go on at the forum, but the two big pain points, one was printing transactions. The other one was how we do our punch out shopping. Our new platform, while it supports punch outs, not quite as friendly. If I need to go back into a punch out catalog and add additional items, modify items that I already have in my cart, that's just how this new platform was just implemented in a manner that it doesn't support that. Unfortunate to say that we're still working with our service provider on that to get that fixed. We're going to keep pressing for this. I keep hoping I'm going to have good news for you in this regard. So stay tuned for that. We're not going to let it drop, but we're not making as much progress as we'd like on this one. So again, we're going to keep advocating for you. It's very important. I'm going to get a little time in May, Tony and I and Barb, and Barb's deputy Kelly Gill. We're going to get a little time in May with Ivalua directly. And this would be one of the things I'm certainly going to bring up with them, that, we need to get this rectified. So I hope I have news before May, but again, we're going to keep pushing, and I don't have any good news to share at this point. Shifting out of maybe not great news into that fourth bullet point, electronic invoicing is moving right along, and we'll have that functionality ready to go in June. Now, don't be scared. Like, oh my God, we don't even know what this functionality is, and you're telling me you're going to turn it on in June. It's pilot. It can potentially be there. Don't necessarily have to use it if you don't want to, kind of situation. We hope, getting that in during the June timeframe, spending 6 months, a year, however long it takes, with that functionality in place. Obviously the concept is that everybody that's in the EVA is using electronic invoicing. I think it's very easy functionality. I think you're going to like what it does. Again, kind of setting the table as we get ready to go into the electronic invoicing demo here in just a little bit. I'm going to be giving you a very high level view of this today. I just want to show you some of the basic functionality. We will spend time over the next couple of weeks and months diving a little bit deeper into what's going to be in the pilot, what's in scope, what's out of scope, kind of the data exchanges that'll be able to take place. There can be things like really cool stuff like OCR, where it's optics, reading things. That's not what we're going to go into today. I just want to show you the basic functionality, which is really PO flip. The supplier being able to take an EVA purchase order and flip it back at us. That's what I'm going to show you today. That's what the focus is today. I know there's a lot of other things that go on with that, but that's what we're going to look at. But again, more to come on electronic invoicing as we have this in an environment where I can demonstrate it to you. And we'll be able here over the next couple of weeks and couple of months to be able to talk deeper about, what the initial launch is going to look like, who's going to participate, all that fun stuff. So more to come. But again, very excited to show you this demo today. I'm very excited to get, the first part, kind of that initial release of electronic invoicing into EVA in June, and that'll be really kind of the end of June timeframe we're thinking for that. So again, very, very excited. Some other things from a high priority perspective, purchase order to pay transparency reporting. And this is truly having a report where you're able to see an EVA PO and you're able to see the resulting voucher and check number and payment information, along with Bank of America data from our P-card transactions all in one spot for your entity. That is ongoing. That's going to be going on all year. That's probably going to be going on all next year. So that's just kind of an ongoing process and reporting buildup that's going on. There's a little bit of work that you have to do on your side to do that. I know there's been a lot of outreach and a lot of meetings. Some of you may know Joel Paddo. Some of you may know Pam Stevenson here from DGS as well. They're really championing that effort for us. And I know Joel has spoken to a lot of various agencies about this report and the data that we need coming back to us into EVA to support that. So again, outreach and setup are ongoing, and we're continuing to make progress there. This second bullet point, I talked earlier about receiving and what a challenge receiving has been in some sectors. And that we probably get more questions in general by volume on receiving than we get on anything else, which is we would not have predicted that when we launched that receiving would have that many questions around it. But hey, that's the way it is. Well, one of the issues that we had was you were not able, you got a PO issued and you went in and you started your receiving and you were going to receive by quantity. So if you ordered 100, you were going to receive 50 or 100 or whatever it was, and you're going to do that by quantity. And then you went, oh no, I don't want to receive by quantity. I want to receive by amount. You had no method, even if you backed out all your other receipts all the way down to 0, the system would not let you change that method of receiving. Well, we got that fixed. We were going to put it in February, had a little issue, but it's coming. We kicked it out to March. So your ability to change the method of receiving will be coming in at the end of March. So very, very excited to get that in for those of you that do receiving. The one caveat to that, if you are going to change your method of receiving, so you start receiving by quantity and you decide, oops, didn't mean to do that, I want to change to receive by amount, you do need to return or back out all of your receiving. And then you can start a new receipt. Once everything is backed out, you can change your method of receiving and then proceed forward from there. But again, excited to get that in because you don't even have that option right now. So that's a big change for us. And then receiving and returns guardrails. So being able to put up some protections for you. We did a couple of these in February. We're doing a couple of these in March. If you go and look at the release notes that Tony has out there, you can get the details on what each guardrail is. Real high level, some of the guardrails we put in or are planning to put in. If there's a draft receipt already existing, we don't let you create a second draft receipt. Some things like that, just things to protect you. We're not letting you pull in an ad hoc receiving line that's not connected to a PO. So again, it was, I think, about 5 or 6 guardrails in general that were coming in. But at the end of March, all of those guardrails will be in. And again, if any of this interests you, or you have end users that are struggling with receiving, or you need to you say, boy, I need my staff to be involved in, get a little bit more information about receiving, or if you yourself want to know more about receiving, keep your eyes and ears open for that receiving and returns webinar. Be a great thing for you to go to kind of get that overview of the receiving and return process and then ask any questions you might have. But again, that's coming up here in the not too distant future.
And there's one comment, just I'll chime in real quick because we've had a couple questions and a few offline conversations between Tony and myself. So that is not part of the regular VILTs.
That is
So
correct.
the virtual instructor led training, so it's not going to be on that VILT calendar. It is a communication that will come out by email. We will also, we're going to figure out where to put it on the website. It makes the most sense to maybe add those on the VILT training page or
Great.
over on buyer training somewhere. But take a look at your email for that communication. And we are meeting later today so that we can get the dates and the links and all that good stuff and communicate it out to you right away.
Excellent. Thank you, Kim. And, I ran with the March 18th date. I don't know if that'll hold, but again, like Kim mentioned, watch your email. This is just in general feedback from, our DPS staff, our account executives, customer care, Miranda Bowling, who's our P2P lead. We hear you receiving. We can see the tickets coming in. We know the issues coming in. This is, as Kim mentioned, some additional training outside of the virtual instructor-led training to kind of go over receiving and returns. And one of the reasons why we waited to do this through March, we wanted all these guardrails to be in. Because when Miranda leads this session, she can show you, like, hey, you can't do this anymore. We took this away. If you have a draft receipt, you're not going to see create receipt because you already have a draft receipt. There's some good protections that we slid in for you and your end users as well. So again, very excited to get that session up and kind of put a little extra focus on that area, to improve ourselves around that particular area. Another one, this will be new for some folks, but it's something for those of you that were old EVA users, or I don't use the term old, Shane, let's legacy EVA users, that we were part of the legacy system. We used to have some functionality in place that the P card was defaulted on the requisition. If you had a supplier that took the P card would default. Well, we don't have that now. Your end users have to consciously go to a separate tab on the requisition and put their P card on the transaction. We have had a request from several universities, entities, agencies, hey, help us out here. We need some sort of P card indicator, a warning message, something, a default to make sure we're supporting that P card program and making sure we know that, hey, this supplier is eligible. They'll take the P card, just something to help our end user community. Don't have a schedule for that yet, but we have bumped that. That's gone from what we call next up. Tony and I moved that to high priority. So it's something we want to get scheduled in the not too distant future to get that support out there for you guys. So I don't have a schedule for you yet. But again, for those of you that were looking for this, it has moved from the on deck circle and we're heading over to get our at bat, right? For our baseball analogy as we're getting later in the spring. So we have, we're out of the dugout, we're out of the on deck circle, we've become high priority. So that's something we want to get scheduled in the not too distant future. So hopefully here over the next month or two, I'll have some good news for you about that particular item and getting something out there. We're not exactly sure what the solution's going to be, but something to help your end users utilize the P card when they should be utilizing the P card. So excited for that. So that's some updates on some of the high priority items we're working on. Now let's go back to the batter's box or the dugout and talk about some next up issues and some things that are right behind these priority issues. And as we clear high priority issues off, these are the issues that will move up into high priority. And some next up issues, receiving on negative line items. And this is all about rebates and discounts. And I know some of you don't even allow for negative line items on your requisitions and purchase orders, which right now that's great. Even though EVA allows you to key in a negative line item, you actually can't receive against said negative line item. So, and again, we know this isn't an issue for some of you guys because you don't allow that anyway. But it's looking like that could be resolved as part of electronic invoicing. And there could be a solution coming for that as we go further down the road with launching electronic invoicing. So, excuse me, stay tuned on that. When a user leaves, they retire, they change jobs, you know, they aren't employed by your entity anymore. The transactions don't go away, but the ability to search by that user who are blocked, deleted, disabled, whatever it may be, that's still out there. That's still the problem. Again, the transactions there, we don't make the transactions go away. We just kind of on the search filter, that becomes an option that user's not available from a search filter perspective. So it makes it a little harder to search for those users' transactions. We got that teed up and kind of in the next up issues and hopefully something we can resolve for you in the not too distant future. Analytics, particularly around the requisition process, aging, cycle times, you know, how old is this rec? How long has it been in process? How long has this particular rule, you know, maybe it's a dollar approver, a budget approver, whatever it is, that ability to do some aging, cycle time, some work, some transparency within EVA around requisition reporting. I've kind of kicked that off. I wanted to wait through February before we started doing anything around this area. But I have asked our partners at CGI if this is something we could begin to focus on. There are some really neat, and I think what could be valuable dashboards for end users in a lot of different areas. There's a supplier overview dashboard. There's a contract overview dashboard. There's kind of your primary dashboard you log into when you first come into EVA. Those are all areas that I'm really beginning to push that in our team, I'm not alone doing this. I want to give others credit. But we're really starting to push, hey, we need to update that query. We need to make this more valuable. We need to start doing some stuff here. And to your credit, you guys have been asking for this now for a while, particularly around requisitions. Help us out here. Help me manage better. Help me lead better. Help me have insight into my requisition processing. Help me have insight into my contract processing and give it to me at a glance where I'm not having to do so much digging and so much work on my own. So we had a very great discussion last week around kind of contracts and suppliers. And I'm pushing to have that same discussion in this area around requisition and some of the reports and analytics and oversight and transparency we can provide to you out of this particular process. So we're starting that up and hopefully some good news over the next several weeks and months with that as well. This second bullet, our CXML suppliers' ability to customize their notifications and delivery. We finally got that kind of slated. It's in the next up area. Should help with some of this duplicate order delivery we've been dealing with. You know, I know that we've done some outreach on our side. I know you guys are letting us know when you're seeing and occasionally, you know, you do a change order and instead of that being treated as a change order, the supplier just ships you a whole new order. Or you actually cancel a purchase order, but instead of that being consumed as a cancellation, they send you a new order instead of canceling your original order. So, you know, a lot of things there. There's some things we can do on our side to help with that. This is one of those things, and that's a next up issue for us as well. And then this third bullet point here, an attachment indicator on the requisition line item. So this is for approvers. For you guys that are out there approving, if one of your end users puts an attachment on a line item, it's very, very difficult to find that attachment and see where that attachment is. So putting some sort of indicator for your approvers on a requisition line item that indicates that, hey, out of these 20 lines, line 12 has an attachment on it. So you can get to that line, go into it, and review that attachment if you need to. So a helpful thing there. All right, let's go through some of the February release. I kind of touched on this earlier. In March, we're getting all of the receiving and return guardrails in there. These are some of the things that came in February. For receiving and return guardrails, in February, we hid that create receipt when draft receipt exists. We're not allowing ad hoc lines on receipts or returns. So you cannot add in a line if it's not on a purchase order. And then help, there's this really tricky thing when you've done a final delivery and for whatever reason, the line on the PO gets marked as final delivery, and then you need to go to do a return and you can't do it because final delivery has been marked and you really need to, kind of reopen the receiving on that. So some help around the final delivery process and making that easier to see, making that easier for your end users to be able to determine, oh my gosh, that order had been marked as final delivery. I need to uncheck that so that I can continue my receiving. And I will tell you, if that third bullet point, you're saying final delivery, what in the heck is that? Great time to watch for that email and go attend that receiving and return training so you can learn a little bit more about that. Some other highlights from the February release in sourcing, preventing our users from accidentally creating a lot versus a round. This is that new terminology we're using in the new EVA. A round is an amendment. So I'm doing some sort of amendment to my sourcing activity. A lot is a completely new sourcing event. It's a completely new IFB, RFP, whatever it is. And we had users thinking they were doing an amendment, and instead they went in and created a lot. And so instead of thinking they were amending an existing sourcing event, they actually ended up creating a new sourcing event. So kind of helping there in that area. And then a quick fix on our P2P area when you do a mass edit and do a supplier update. We had this issue where you'd update the supplier, but for whatever reason, the contact on the old supplier wouldn't get wiped out, and it would cause this really nasty error. So now if I'm going in and I'm copying a requisition or copying an order to duplicate it, and I go in and do a mass edit to switch the supplier, that's going to be a much cleaner experience for you guys. Since that fix went in back in February. And then as we kind of march, we're getting a little bit towards the end. I'm being conscious of the clock here because I do want to get to the demo before it gets too late. I don't want to run out of time. Our March release, this is an exciting one, this first one for you guys that are security officers. We are getting our user data into the data warehouse. We went live consciously knowing that the user data, it's obviously in EVA so that we can have security and set up users and all the things that we do. But we did not have that user data in the data warehouse. So some of those great data warehouse reports that we used to run from a user perspective out of the data warehouse, we didn't have the chance to have those available to you guys because the data wasn't in the data warehouse. Well, that's coming in March, and that'll allow us to bring some of those user data warehouse reports back online. So excited for you guys in those security officer roles from a reporting perspective. Another sourcing change, and again, these are things that are coming in March, and I think the date is March 21st, and that's the evening. So we do that release on the evening of the 21st. So that means on the 22nd, the morning of the 22nd, you'll see these changes. Now, don't go running thinking a report's going to be ready on the morning of the 22nd. But getting this user data into the data warehouse allows us to begin developing those reports again, just to be super clear. And then the second bullet point here was sourcing. We're going to prevent our suppliers from attaching blank, empty attachments, which, believe it or not, they do when they're responding to sourcing activities. We have actually seen this more than I imagined we ever would. A supplier is submitting a response, submitting a bid to a publicly posted sourcing event. They add an attachment, and the attachment is actually 0 kilobytes. It's blank. So we're actually putting in, and then the supplier thinks they're good, that they've attached. Don't know why it comes over blank. Excuse me, they're just getting a drink of water, or why the supplier is attaching a blank attachment, but this puts in a little edit that helps us check for that. Excuse me. Allergy season here and lots of talking for me this morning. And then this last one, in the receiving area, mentioned it earlier, ability to change our method of receiving. So I talked about that earlier, and for the sake of time, that is it for kind of the, our February, March release. So excited to get that stuff in. And again, if you want a deeper dive on those, you would absolutely can go to Tony's links and look at all the detailed release notes if you so desire. Let's go ahead and get into our demo today. Let's go ahead and look at electronic invoicing. I'm going to exit out of here. And I'm going to share again, and I'm going to dig into Eva. And then I'll do a little table setting here. All right. Let everybody's screens refresh. Let's go in. Let's do our electronic invoicing demo. So again, there's a lot going on with this functionality. It's easy functionality, but we know there's a lot of touch points when you start talking about electronic invoicing, right? You've got your accounts payable folks involved. You've got finance systems involved, because if I'm going to be doing electronic invoicing in Eva, I've got to be able to tell a finance system that we're okay to pay. So there's all sorts of kind of some other things going on with electronic invoicing. And I promise you, as we get further down the road, as we get closer to June, we'll talk about those things with you. We'll talk about what's in scope, what's out of scope. We'll talk about how we're going to do this pilot and how we're going to, get this launched. But what I wanted to show you today, which is kind of the very basic component around invoicing, to just kind of let you see it within the Eva system. Now, I am in an environment here called Eva Evolution. It's an evolution environment. So it's letting us play with this new functionality in an environment that's configured like the environment we have here with Eva. So I'm actually, and if you're looking at this and saying, wow, this looks different than what I'm used to seeing, I am currently logged in as a supplier. You'll see it says supplier portal. So I am logged in as a supplier in this evolution environment. The big change you'll see, and I'll show you the buying side here after we get through the supplier side. The big change you'll see is there is a manage invoice area here. So for the ability to go in and see the invoices that I have submitted. And again, as a supplier, I'm going to be coming in, I'm going to be submitting an invoice. And then as a supplier, when I'm acknowledging my orders, go ahead and click on this. You'll notice I get some information about the various orders I need to acknowledge, where I get my PO number, who the buyer contact is, and you'll notice in this case, the buyer contact, oh, there's Tony. Tony's got one in here. But you'll notice for this test area, the buyer contact here is me, but some great information about what the order amount is. The supplier can see what's been received. And then I can also on the supplier side, tell what I have invoiced. So in this case, I've got an order that was for $13,000. It's been partially received. And as a supplier, I've invoiced for that partial amount. Same thing for the one below here. I've fully received. So I've got a $13,000 order. It's been fully received, but we've only invoiced for a very, very small portion. And then this third example here, where everything's tied together, right? Ordered, received, been invoiced for the full amount. All right. So some very, very, kind of summary information for the supplier. All right. So I'm going to scroll down and we'll pick this one. I think this one will work just fine today. So I've got an order. It was for $699.90 and $349.95 has been received. All right. If I want to create an invoice for this, I've got this new little column. If you can't see that on your screen, it looks like a little dollar sign, a little box surrounded by a dollar sign. So I can add an invoice to this order by clicking here. I can also go into the PO itself. And I can click on create invoice. Okay. And then on the PO, I could track any invoices. Right now I have none. You'll notice on this left-hand menu. And then I can also, as a supplier, again, remember I'm a supplier, any delivery information or things that I've put in here for that. Now this has been received. I didn't key in on my end any delivery information. It's been received, on our side. Right. So there's just kind of a look at the order there. So if I want to turn this around and submit an invoice, and we're just, widgets, love buying widgets. On the supplier side, I simply hit create invoice. And I am flipping this PO back to the buyer or back to the entity. So in this case, it's DGS. There are some fields in here that you will not see as we start cleaning this up. One of them is the big one's going to be around taxes. Right now, it's very, very easy for a supplier to do this PO flip out of Viva. They need to enter a custom invoice number. I'll just put in that today here in this field, the invoice date. They can scroll down. There's the PO that they're linked to. And then it just pulls the entire, now, even though this has been partially received, it pulls the entire amount down for me. I can hit save here. On the supplier side, you do get an error here. Invoice tax amount not entered. Again, we're going to be blowing away all of this tax information because we don't deal with taxes. But you see here, there's the order, the item I'm invoicing, 5, unit price of $69.99, and then that amount there. Okay, and so that is what had been received in this case. And then you'll see that my ordered quantity is 10. I'm invoicing for the 5 that had been received, because remember, this had been partially received. So you can see that the total received is $349. Total ordered, it's giving me some numbers here, $699. And I'm going to invoice for the amount that has been received. So even on this particular PO that had been partially received, it put a protection in for me on the government side. I'd only partially received. Well, when the supplier PO flipped this, it gave me back just the 5 that I had received, and even gives me a little summary there. 10 was the total order, 5 have been received. So that's what I'm going to invoice for. And again, we're going to have a nice, much, 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 much cleaner look at this when we do some additional configuration and cleanup. But the supplier has the ability to add comments, and there's some other things that will be removed here. But I just wanted to show you just a basic PO flip. And again, I can't repeat this enough. This is not configured yet. We have it, the functionality stood up. There are a lot of configurations over the next several weeks that are getting ready to be done to clean this up for what we are going to be rolling out. But again, pretty simple. I'm just flipping the PO. I key in the invoice number. confirm the line item I've put in, and then I can validate this. Gives me a little warning message. I can hit OK. And then I am sending that invoice back. It gives me a little note that the invoice tax amount was not entered. Don't worry about that. And then it creates a little PDF version for me of the invoice. And so I have invoiced again the $349.95.
And
Now,
Shane, oh, sorry.
If I go in to my acknowledge orders area, this is the one I did. You'll notice there's the PO, total amount ordered, total amount received, and I have now invoiced for that amount. And so right now, that invoice is in, you'll see it's the one right here, and all of these, it's being reviewed by accounts payable at this point, so that it's gone in AP review. So go ahead, Kim.
The question that came over is, does the order have to be received for an invoice to be created or even partially received?
It doesn't necessarily have to be. So I can take so check out this one here. There's no receiving done on it. I can add an invoice to this one, and it will let me invoice without receiving being done. But obviously, on our side, if the you're going to receive that invoice, and then the receiving is going to need to be completed on our side to make the three-way match happen. So the first protection that it does, you'll notice because I didn't have a receipt, it invoiced the full amount. So let's just go ahead. Let me get this in here so you can see it. That's
And
a
while
great
you're
question.
completing that, the other question associated with this is, will the buyer be notified, or accounts payable be notified when an invoice has been submitted?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We wouldn't not do that. So you'll notice here, that's a different one. Something blew up. It didn't go all the way to AP, right? I hadn't received on that. So it went to business review because it's what I'm saying, wait a minute, I got a PO, I got an invoice, I don't have a receipt. And you can go look at that here. Look at that. So there's my gap. I went ahead and invoiced for it, but boy, somebody on the business side going to have to do that receipt because we don't have a full match. And again, notifications, all sorts of stuff is absolutely going to go out. Now, let's go have a look and see what that looks like on the buying side. All right, so now I'm in as a buyer. I can go, there's an invoice, we get a new section called invoicing. I can certainly go there and browse invoices, right? So I can see I'm getting a very similar view, right? I ordered 1,000, haven't done a stitch of receiving, and I got an invoice sitting there. I've ordered $69.90. I've received partial. I got a full invoice. Look at these two. They're ordered, received, fully invoiced. Ordered, received, fully invoiced. So you get the idea, right? Where I get a good view at that. I can look at this. We'll go in just to kind of give you a buyer side view. So it's up to our side to actually move this invoice through the approval process. Now, again, there's going to be a lot of, I don't want to get too into what the approvals look like yet, because there's going to be a lot of configuration going on for that. But in this case, I haven't done my receiving yet. So I had a receipt reconciliation. Again, our approval is going to look a lot different. But you'll notice I had a receipt reconciliation. It blew up because what? My receipt didn't match because I don't have one. All right. So I could create a receipt to go ahead and say, oh gosh, you're right, you're right, you're right. They've invoiced me. I've absolutely received these. Let me get this receiving done. Or I could reject and shoot that back at the supplier and say, what are you doing sending me an invoice? I don't even have my items yet. Or you didn't complete the work. So, that full kind of approval. So that's one where the receiving wasn't there. Now let me go back and we'll look at one here that actually made it to AP. And again, same thing. And again, I got a lot of tax stuff. Don't panic about that. Again, I just wanted to show you just a quick PO flip. Quite honestly, if you were at the forum, very similar to what you guys saw at the forum this year is what I'm showing you today. Just, I have a login and our team has access to this environment, which is exciting. But again, same deal here. I could still send it back to the business if I wanted to, right? Maybe something's wrong. I don't like it. I could approve it. I could create a receipt to receive the rest of the items if I wanted to. If I look at the approval, now this one stopped at a tax allocation check. And again, you're not going to see any of that. But what I wanted to show you is it's coming in and saying, did the PO match? Yeah. Did the receipt match? Yes. Because I had a PO, I had a receipt amount, and the invoice matched the receipt amount. So it slipped all the way down. And again, we've still got taxes configured in here, which will blow out. And our approval flow is going to look a lot different than this. We're building a little bit different looking approval flow. But you get the idea, you know, that ability, you know, from an invoicing perspective to be able to see what's ordered, see what's received, see what's invoiced, and to be able, we're in control. We don't like something, we shouldn't have gotten the invoice, they keyed in something wrong, they over invoice us, whatever it is, we can reject it and send it back to the supplier.
And then another question associated with taxes, because not all things are tax exempt, saying, the question came over, if we're doing away with tax entry, what about suppliers that provide catering, lodging, etc., that are not tax exempt? And in those scenarios, you would not use the electronic invoicing.
You either wouldn't use it or your supplier could always do one of the views you had, and I should be able to see it from here. Let me go into an invoice. We're not going to formally calculate the taxes like what is happening here. See how that it's all form. We're not going to formally calculate, but if you had a situation where taxes need to be charged, you can always key in. I mean, there's a line sitting there. You could, you know, I mean, I don't know the rule, you know, taxes at 4%, and you could
Manually.
you could manually get that keyed in a situation. We are just, the system is not going to have a tax rate table loaded and are going to calculate all these taxes. We're not going to do federal tax and lodging tax and blah, 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 blah. You know, we're not going to have the system do those calculations. You could absolutely key those in. And because you're through a match, could potentially get out of hand necessarily, depending on if you put that in your PO or not. It would at least give you a chance to review that before you authorized, right? You know, at least give you a chance to review that. So that's a very interesting scenario to discover. So I look forward to running through that scenario as part of our, you know, kind of planning and designing and things like that. But certainly you do have the ability and your supplier has the ability to add in additional lines if they need to do that. And there is some collaborative when you reject, you get the ability to comment back. You know, you didn't, you know, you're missing a line. You didn't charge taxes. You overcharged us. I mean, you can key in anything you want here, and your supplier will get that rejection notice with that reason keyed back to them. So you want to be super clear when we're rejecting a supplier submitted invoice, what they're missing, what they need to do, what they need to correct. So you get a little bit of collaboration back and forth. And if I reject this, the supplier can go in, make the necessary changes, and resubmit if they want to. So a little bit of pretty cool back and forth. So that, again, I wanted to show you this, just a quick glance. I think one of the neatest things from my perspective is being able to have that type of view at the order level, at the invoice level, and really tying all that information together. But again, a lot more to come on this. So Kim came off her camera because I know we are 2 minutes from being done, but really appreciate you guys hanging in with me today for an hour and a half for a little bit of an extended session. But I hope that was valuable to you guys. We're very excited to continue to communicate and message and share and get our training all ready for electronic invoicing. So buckle up over the next couple of weeks and months because we're excited to get that going.
And we did get just a few questions that came over about with the, I'm like completely blanked out, SPCC transactions. So when that charge card is being used, will the agency's accounts payable get notification? So you're not invoicing in those scenarios.
Correct. And we're putting together a scenario so that it's very clear to the supplier. This is one of the business challenges we're trying to solve. We have a lot of situations where we send a supplier a PCO order. So we attach the P card to our requisition, attach the P card to our order. It goes to the supplier and they shoot us a daggone invoice. There is the ability, we're building in a configuration where we can basically not reject, but reject back and say, no, charge the P card. And then the supplier is blocked and we will still have an invoice, but it'll be marked as pay or paid by P card. So we can control. So that supplier might still shoot us an invoice and we'll go, nope, that should be on P card, and they'll know to do that. That was absolutely a business scenario that we got. There are a lot of P card orders sent to suppliers where they send us an invoice and they're waiting on a check.
Right.
Because they didn't run the card.
And
So that is
then,
absolutely one of the loops we want to close.
right. And then with system generated invoices that are system generated by the supplier, you know, will the supplier's system generated invoice be able to somehow be attached?
Yeah, so we're planning for that as well. The supplier generated invoice. I don't want to get too deep in that. There's a lot of ways that can happen. Some of it's with OCR. Some of it is with direct CXML entry. So like your more complex supplier, they may get our purchase orders through a data exchange through CXML. Well, then they might want to send us their invoice back as well via CXML. So a couple ways we can do that. We're working on all that and solutioning all that. Again, I didn't want to get too much into that today because that's going to be some add-ons and some additional work and things like that. But absolutely, we're planning for that. Absolutely, positively, we're planning for that.
And then one of the
So stay tuned for
questions
that as well.
is specific to the community college system where they have to email invoices to a specific email address. And for those invoices, will that still be required? Any guidelines that you have in place that impact policy? Obviously, those are going to be decisions that have to be made
Correct.
as to your procedures and things. So just
Correct.
stay tuned. This is about making the functionality available, and then, you know, how the different entities adapt and use the technology. It might be
Yeah, and
specific depending on who you are.
you know, just like anytime we launch, you know, this is like I said, a brand new piece of functionality for us. We're going to launch it. We're going to start working with some of you guys, and we're going to learn a whole lot as we kind of get all the business scenarios and how we're going to guide. So it's truly, I would say once we launch that in June, we'll spend the rest of 2024 and probably into 2025 figuring out the various business scenarios, making sure we're providing the proper guidance. We got a lot of suppliers to train too. And then all the different options they might have for getting an invoice in. I showed you the basic one today. Supplier logs into his account, finds the PO, hits the button, flips the PO, and sends it back to us. Well, you guys are already going down the road. Well, what if they need to email it? What if they need to do OCR? What if they need to do, you know, this, that, or the other? So all sorts of things going on in that regard.
Yes, so more guidance to come. And if you do have a supplier and you're paying them with P card, make sure that you're creating a PCO order by attaching that P card. In order for them to receive that P card information, there is guidance, step-by-step QRG on how to access that P card information for a PCO order. So Lynn, I did see your question that came over, and I'm not really sure if the supplier can accept the PCO or the P card, why they are not getting that P card information from a PCO order. So make sure you're creating the right type of order for that P card to be attached to it. And if you run into issues, work with your account executive or call customer care to make sure that you've got your guidelines in place, that the functionality is working for you the way that it's supposed to. But if you do need the e-assistance, lean on our support that we have. Because these might be specific things that are happening for your entity, for specific reasons that are outside just general users.
And if I'll put it into the chat, it'll probably get buried, but on the supplier training, we absolutely have a how to access P card info and EVA.
And I had already put it out there once, so
Oh,
Shane
you
put it
did?
out there
Okay.
again. So
Yeah, there's
it is-
absolutely in the supplier training, there's a guide for that. So
There's also new guides that we added associated with how to respond to an IFB and how to respond to a quick quote. So we do have QRGs that walk a supplier through those steps. So make sure that you're pointing a supplier to the supplier training page, and those QRGs are that first page that they're going to land on. There's also a supplier tips area. So one of the tips that's out there for suppliers, we don't do them as often as for our buyers, but we do work those into our overall tips that we post. And for our suppliers, it's how do you get paid? So how do they get paid if they're not getting paid by P card? Right now, they're having to invoice the bill to address, or they have the electronic data interchange, ACH, set up where they can be paid that way through Department of Accounts. So make sure that you're leaning on those resources and sharing those with your suppliers. And if there's anything that you might need, please make sure you pass that along. Again, the buyer assistance request form is also a great way for you to send us a request for something that you might need either in the system or a training request or anything like that. And I'm just double checking. Yeah, so Lynn, you're gonna have to work maybe offline with that specific supplier. I don't really, this is an individual situation for a question that came over. So thank you for that feedback that you provided. So that did get read. Just wanted to let you know. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for the engagement here today. Thank you for Barb and Tony tag teaming the questions behind the scenes. If you guys didn't know, we had there were some comments that were just general comments also, but we had upwards of maybe 30 questions that got answered along the way. So thank you for engaging with us that way. Thank you for attending today's buyer user group. Our next buyer user group won't be held until, so April, we're going to have an EVA Extra that goes out. And then in May, we'll have our next buyer user group meeting. And we will get those dates up on the website. We'll send out a playback for today's meeting. Thank you for hanging in with us, extended time. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. And as always, thank you for being the pros and putting that pro in procurement, and happy procurement month to all you procurement professionals out there. We are definitely honored to be amongst you, and thankful that we get to work with a program that supports such amazing talent. So thank you guys. All right.
awesome.
We will see you again in May, and reach out to us if you need any assistance.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good one.